My precious child, stop for a moment and breathe, because what I am about to reveal is not small. It is not ordinary. And it is not a coincidence that you clicked on this message right now. God is screaming. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Spirit of the living God is raising His voice over your life at this very second. You are standing at the edge of something critical. You are about to lose God's hand. And if you skip this message, you will lose that one thing from your life that you cannot replace. This is not fear. This is urgency wrapped in mercy. Archangel Michael stands watch at the gates of your destiny. He is not silent. He is not asleep. He is alert, sword drawn in the spiritual realm, because something has shifted around you. There hath been movement in places you cannot see. There has been a silent tug pulling you away from divine protection. And heaven will not let you drift without warning. You have felt it, haven't you? That strained heaviness, a subtle distance, that unexplained delay. You told yourself it was stress. You blamed circumstances. But deep inside, you sensed that something spiritual was happening. You sensed that the hand that once felt so close now feels slightly farther away. Listen carefully. God's hand is not weak. It is not short. It is not incapable. But relationship requires response. When God stretches His hand toward you, and you keep stepping back, eventually, you feel the space you created. And right now, you are dangerously close to that space becoming permanent. This is why you must not delay. This is why you must open your spirit fully. Because the one thing you are about to lose is not money. It is not status. It is not even a person. It is divine covering. Without divine covering, doors close without explanation. Opportunities slip through your fingers. Peace becomes rare. Clarity fades. And confusion grows louder than truth. Archangel Michael has been assigned to guard you through seasons of unseen battle. There were nights you should have fallen, but you did not. There were traps set in your path, but somehow you stepped over them. There were whispers meant to destroy your confidence, but you survived. That was not luck. That was protection. But protection flows where obedience remains alive. And lately, you have been distracted. You have allowed noise to become louder than prayer. You have allowed routine to replace reverence. You have allowed comfort to weaken commitment. And heaven hath been watching with concern. God is not screaming because He hates you. He is screaming because He refuses to lose you. The enemy has been patient. He has not attacked loudly. He hath been subtle. He hath been strategic. He knows that if he cannot destroy you openly, he can slowly disconnect you quietly. And that is what has been happening. Small compromises, small delays, small disobedience. They feel harmless, but they stack up. And when they stack high enough, they create distance. Right now, you are being called back before the distance becomes damage. Archangel Michael is moving around your atmosphere as this message reaches you. There is a divine urgency in the spirit. Something was about to be removed from your life, not as punishment, but as consequence. God's hand was beginning to lift slightly to teach you awareness. But mercy interrupted. His message is mercy. There is still time, but not much. You were about to lose clarity in a decision that is coming. You were about to misread someone's intention. You were about to say yes to something that would slowly drain your peace. If you had continued ignoring the whisper of the Spirit, the consequence would have unfolded quietly, and you would not even realize why everything suddenly felt heavier. God does not want you confused. He wants you covered. The one thing you cannot afford to lose is alignment. Alignment keeps you protected. Alignment keeps you favored. Alignment keeps you guided. Without alignment, you rely on your own understanding, and your understanding is limited. This is not a threat. It is a rescue operation. Heaven does not scream often, but when it does, it is because something irreversible is forming in the unseen realm. Right now, you have a choice. You can scroll. You can dismiss this as emotion. You can say, "I will pray later." Or you can respond immediately. Archangel Michael stands as a witness. He has fought battles on your behalf that you never saw. He has guarded doors you never knew were dangerous. But angels respond to divine order, and divine order flows through your obedience. God is calling you back into closeness, back into discipline, back into daily surrender. Because the moment you drift too far, protection feels distant, not because God left, but because you stepped away. And if you skip this message, if you ignore this urgency, the thing that begins to slip from your life will be spiritual sensitivity. Once sensitivity fades, compromise feels normal. Once compromise feels normal, separation feels justified. And that is how people lose God's hand without realizing it. But not you. You were interrupted for a reason. You are hearing this because heaven still claims you. Something powerful is about to happen in your life, but only if you remain under the covering. In the next moments, I will reveal what specifically triggered this divine alarm and how Archangel Michael is positioning himself to secure what almost slipped away. The warning has been delivered. Now the decision is yours. Beloved soul, what triggered this divine alarm was not a single mistake. It was a pattern forming quietly behind your daily routine. Heaven does not react to one weak moment. Heaven responds when it sees direction shifting. And your direction, slowly and subtly, began to bend away from dependence on God and toward dependence on yourself. You did not even notice when it started. It began with small thoughts like, "I can handle this on my own." It continued with postponed prayers. It deepened with decisions made without seeking confirmation from the Spirit. None of it looked dramatic. None of it looked rebellious. But in the spiritual realm, even small shifts in posture create large shifts in protection. Archangel Michael observed this carefully. He is not emotional, he is strategic. When divine covering begins to thin, he does not panic, but he positions himself differently. And recently, his position around you changed. Not because he abandoned you, but because spiritual law requires cooperation. Protection flows strongest where surrender remains active. There was a conversation you had recently. Do you remember it? Words were spoken that carried more weight than you realized. In that moment, pride always took the lead. You almost justified something that your spirit quietly warned you against. That was one of the signals. Not the only one, but one of them. Then came distraction. Endless scrolling. Endless noise. Endless comparison. The enemy did not need to attack you directly. He only needed to occupy your attention long enough for you to neglect alignment. And distraction is one of the most underestimated spiritual weapons. God saw the direction this was heading. If continued, it would have led to a season where you would feel spiritually dry. Prayer would feel like effort. Worship would feel routine. Decisions would feel confusing. And once confusion sets in, people begin making choices that alter their destiny path. This is why the warning feels intense. It is not because disaster has already happened. It is because heaven refuses to let you drift into unnecessary struggle. Archangel Michael has been assigned to guard something specific in your life. It is not random. There is a calling attached to you. There is influence attached to you. There is a future impact that reaches beyond what you currently see. And when someone carries future impact, spiritual resistance increases as they approach critical growth. You are approaching growth. That is why resistance increased. That is why distraction intensified. That is why temptation became more subtle instead of obvious. The enemy hoped you would misinterpret the season as normal stress. He hoped you would disconnect quietly. But this interruption changes everything. Now listen carefully. The one thing that was about to slip from your life was spiritual discernment. Without discernment, you cannot tell who is assigned to help you and who is assigned to delay you. Without discernment, you say yes when you should wait. You trust when you should test. You invest energy where you should withdraw. Discernment is a shield, and that shield was weakening. But heaven stepped in before it shattered. This is the moment where you must respond intentionally. Do not treat this like background noise. If this message is piercing your heart, that is not coincidence. That is confirmation. Take a moment today to realign. Pray with honesty. Remove what you know has been pulling your focus. Rebuild the small disciplines you slowly relaxed. Good action strengthens when alignment strengthens. And let me say this clearly, you are not condemned. You are corrected because you are chosen. Archangel Michael is not standing over you with accusation. He is standing beside you with defense, waiting for your cooperation so he can reinforce the covering fully again. If this message is speaking directly into your current situation, do not stay silent. Engage with it. Type your agreement in the comments as a declaration of alignment. Share this with someone who may also be drifting without realizing it. Subscribe and become part of this growing spiritual family, because these warnings are not random uploads. They are timely alerts. When you support and hype this channel, you are helping messages like this reach souls who are one step away from losing their covering. There is more unfolded. What almost happened next would have shocked you. And what Archangel Michael is now preparing to reveal will open your eyes even wider. Hold your focus, because what comes next will connect every hidden piece you have been questioning. The interruption was only the beginning. Chosen one, what almost happened next was not small. It would have unfolded so naturally that you would have accepted it as fate. That is how the enemy works when someone carries divine potential. He does not always attack loudly. Sometimes he rearranges circumstances just enough so that you walk into limitation thinking it is opportunity. Here was a door preparing to open before you. It looked promising. It sounded reasonable. It even felt deserved. But hidden inside that door was slow spiritual erosion. It would not have destroyed you overnight. It would have slowly redirected you away from your higher assignment. Archangel Michael saw this forming in the unseen realm. He recognized the subtle shift. The opportunity was not evil. It was simply misaligned. And misalignment for a chosen vessel can be more dangerous than obvious opposition. You would have stepped into it with good intentions. You would have justified it with logic. You would have explained it to others with confidence. But months later, you would begin to feel something missing. Your passion would thin out. Your spiritual hunger would weaken. Your clarity would blur. And you would wonder when the fire started fading. The fading would not be dramatic. It would be gradual. That is why God is screaming now instead of whispering later. He is not trying to embarrass you. He is trying to preserve you. There is a difference. There is something unique about your calling. You are not meant to live casually. You are not designed to drift. When you drift, your spirit feels restless. When you compromise, your peace feels disturbed. A discomfort is not punishment. It is evidence of divine ownership. Archangel Michael has been guarding a specific promise over your life. A promise connected to influence, to breakthrough, to impact beyond your immediate circle. The enemy's strategy was simple: exhaust you with distraction, weaken your discernment, then present you with something almost right. Almost right is often completely wrong for someone assigned to greatness. Heaven measured the timeline carefully. If the warning had come later, the attachment would have already formed. If it had come earlier, you might not have understood the urgency. But right now, you are at the perfect intersection of awareness and choice. You are being invited back into full alignment before the wrong commitment seals itself. Look back over the past few weeks. Notice how certain conversations increase. Notice how certain invitations repeated. Notice how certain thoughts kept returning to your mind. Those were not random cycles. They were pressure points testing your stability. And you almost said yes. Not because you are weak, but because you were tired. Fatigue can blur spiritual vision. When you are tired of waiting, tired of pushing, tired of praying for change, even a misaligned shortcut can look like relief. But relief that costs destiny is too expensive. Archangel Michael intervened because the cost was too high. There is still something heaven wants to entrust to you. But entrustment requires refinement. And refinement requires surrender. This is the moment where you must choose whether convenience will guide you or calling will guide you. God's hand has not fully lifted, but it paused. It paused to see whether you would notice the distance. It paused to test whether you would respond to conviction. It paused to determine whether you still value alignment more than comfort. And you clicked on this message. That alone tells heaven something important about you. You are not lost. You are being recalibrated. Now listen carefully. The next few days are critical. Decisions will surface. Options will appear attractive. Emotions may try to rush you. Slow down. Pray before answering. Seek confirmation before committing. If peace is missing, pause. If pressure is loud, wait. Protection strengthens when patience increases. Archangel Michael is reinforcing the perimeter around you again. But reinforcement responds to cooperation. Do not return to distraction. Do not dismiss this as temporary emotion. Anchor yourself intentionally. Something greater is still coming, but it requires full alignment. Right now, seal this moment. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if this message confirms what your spirit has been sensing. Lesson code 3339 has just been released over those who respond in obedience. And hear this as an extension of what was just revealed. When you sow into messages that guard destinies, you are not supporting a channel. You are strengthening a spiritual alarm system that reaches souls before they fall. The Lord says, "As you pour oil into my work, I will pour clarity into your path." This is your moment of agreement. When you release a super thanks, join as a member, or sow through the PayPal link in the description. You are planting seed into holy ground that rescues futures. I see rivers opening over those who act swiftly. I see light multiplying because you chose not to stay silent. Do not hesitate. Seal your obedience with action, and let heaven record your response today. Faithful one, there is a deeper layer to this warning that you must understand clearly. What almost slipped from your life was not just discernment. It was authority. Spiritual authority does not disappear in one dramatic moment. It fades when alignment weakens and hesitation replaces obedience. You carry more authority than you realize. There are prayers you speak that shift atmospheres. There are decisions you make that influence outcomes beyond what your natural eyes can see. Heaven has entrusted you with weight, and weight demands awareness. Recently, something subtle tried to convince you that your voice does not matter, that your prayers are repetitive, that your obedience is unnoticed, that your waiting has been pointless. These thoughts were not random. They were carefully introduced suggestions designed to weaken your confidence in your spiritual position. Archangel Michael recognized this attempt immediately. When a chosen vessel begins doubting their authority, the enemy sees opportunity. Because once doubt settles in, hesitation follows, and hesitation delays destiny. There were moments when you almost stopped praying about something specific. You felt tired of repeating the same request. You questioned whether heaven was listening. That was a pressure point. If you had stopped, something significant would have shifted in the spiritual balance around you. Do you understand what that means? Your consistency has been holding back something greater than you imagined. There are outcomes that have not collapsed because you kept speaking life. There are situations that did not deteriorate because you remained steady in faith. Authority operates quietly, but its impact is powerful. The enemy wanted you to step back from that authority voluntarily, not through force, through discouragement. Discouragement is often the final stage before withdrawal. If you withdraw, protection thins. If protection thins, vulnerability increases. But heaven intervened before withdrawal could become your pattern. Archangel Michael is not only guarding your path, he is reinforcing your authority. He is reminding you that your spiritual position is not decorative. It is functional. It is active. It carries consequence in both visible and invisible realms. There's a reason resistance increased recently. You are nearing a breakthrough that requires stronger authority. And whenever elevation approaches, opposition attempts to weaken confidence first. Imagine a warrior laying down his shield before entering battle. That is what discouragement tries to accomplish. It convinces you to lower your defense voluntarily. But you did not fully lower it. Something inside you resisted. Something inside you sensed that giving up would cost more than continuing. That inner resistance is evidence that God's hand is still near. Now is not the time to shrink. It is the time to reclaim what almost faded. Begin praying again with intention. Speak over your home with clarity. Declare alignment over your decisions. Do not let silence replace authority. Archangel Michael stands as reinforcement when you speak with conviction. Heaven partners with bold obedience. When you align your words with God's will, angelic assistance strengthens. There is also something else you must recognize. Someone around you has been observing your spiritual posture. They may not speak about it openly, but your consistency influences them. If you had drifted fully, their faith would have been shaken quietly. Your authority is not only personal, it is generational. That is why the warning came strongly. You are a pillar in places you do not even see. If a pillar weakens, the structure trembles, but you are being fortified again. The heaviness you felt was not failure, it was pressure preceding promotion. The doubt you experienced was not proof of weakness, it was evidence of proximity to growth. The distraction that tried to pull you away was not coincidence. It was strategic timing. And yet, you are still here. That matters. There is a recalibration happening in your spirit even as you read this. Clarity is returning. Confidence is rebuilding. Sensitivity is sharpening. The distance that always formed is closing. Do not treat this as temporary motivation. Seal it with action. Adjust your habits immediately. Remove what drains your spiritual focus. Recommit to disciplines that strengthen you. Authority grows where consistency lives. Archangel Michael is repositioning himself not because you were abandoned, but because you responded. Heaven responds to response. In the coming days, you may notice subtle shifts. Conversations may feel clearer. Decisions may feel lighter. That is alignment re-establishing flow. But remain vigilant. Elevation requires endurance. You were not created to live beneath your spiritual capacity. You were not designed to operate without covering. You were not called to shrink when pressure rises. This interruption was not random content in your day. It was a checkpoint in your destiny. Stand firm. Speak boldly. Align quickly. Because what is approaching next will require the full strength of the authority you almost forgot you carried. Warrior of light, there is something you must see clearly now. The reason this warning came with such intensity is because a cycle was about to repeat itself. And if it had repeated one more time, it would have established a pattern strong enough to delay your next elevation. Cycles are subtle. They disguise themselves as personality traits. They present themselves as this is just how things always go for me. But in the spiritual realm, cycles are doors that reopen when lessons are avoided. Look carefully at your history. There has been a recurring theme. A moment where you feel momentum building. A season where clarity increases. An opportunity that feels aligned. And then, suddenly, distraction, doubt, or emotional overwhelm steps in and disrupts the flow. You recover. You rebuild. You move forward again. But the interruption costs time. This time, the interruption was going to cost more than time. It was going to cost positioning. Archangel Michael saw the pattern attempting to activate again. He recognized the familiar pressure, the familiar fatigue, the familiar invitation to compromise just enough to delay breakthrough. And he moved swiftly because repetition would have strengthened the cycle. You were not about to lose God completely, but you were about to lose momentum. Momentum in the spiritual realm is powerful. When you are aligned, obedience becomes easier. When obedience becomes easier, favor flows more freely. When favor flows freely, doors open without strain. But when momentum breaks, rebuilding requires more energy than maintaining. The enemy studies patterns. He cannot create destiny, but he can observe habits. And he noticed that when you feel overwhelmed, you withdraw slightly. When you withdraw slightly, you isolate spiritually. When you isolate spiritually, your clarity dims. That sequence almost began again, but something interrupted it. This message did not appear randomly in your feed. It intersected your pattern at the exact point where withdrawal was about to begin. Heaven timed it precisely. There is also something else you must understand. The thing you were about to lose was not external. It was internal stability. Internal stability keeps you grounded when circumstances fluctuate. Without it, emotions begin to steer decisions. Recently, emotions have been louder than usual. You have felt sensitive. You have felt stretched. You have questioned yourself more than normal. But vulnerability was not weakness. It was exposure. And exposure without reinforcement becomes instability. Archangel Michael reinforced you before instability could root itself. You may have thought you were simply tired, but beneath that tiredness was a test. Would you default to old patterns, or would you rise into new discipline? Breaking cycles requires conscious interruption. This is that interruption. Now is the moment to respond differently than you did before. When pressure increases, pray instead of retreating. When doubt whispers, declare truth instead of analyzing fear. When opportunity appears, seek confirmation instead of rushing for relief. You are not stuck in a cycle. You were standing at its doorway, and you stepped back just in time. There is growth ahead that demands stability. There is expansion ahead that requires maturity. The next level of your life cannot be sustained by old reactions. Archangel Michael is not only guarding you, he is training you. Protection is not passive, it is partnership. Heaven covers you, but you must cooperate with wisdom. Pay attention to triggers. Notice what drains you. Identify what tempts you to withdrawal. Replace avoidance with engagement. Replace hesitation with prayerful action. The cycle loses power when you respond with awareness. There is a promise over your life that has not expired. There is a breakthrough that has not been canceled. But timing matters. Alignment matters. Response matters. You were seconds away from repeating something familiar. Now you have the opportunity to create something new. The heaviness you felt was not random pressure. It was a crossroads. One path led to repetition. The other leads to elevation. And you are still in position to choose elevation. Strengthen your internal stability. Guard your thoughts carefully. Surround yourself with voices that reinforce faith, not fear. Adjust small habits before they become large consequences. Archangel Michael stands firm because you are not abandoned. But remember, angels reinforce movement. They do not replace responsibility. This is the season where patterns break permanently. This is the season where momentum continues uninterrupted. This is the season where stability becomes your foundation instead of your struggle. What comes next will reveal why this breakthrough required such urgent intervention. Stay attentive, because the next revelation will uncover the deeper assignment attached to your life that made this warning unavoidable. Steadfast heart, what you are about to understand now explains everything. The urgency, the interruption, the intensity of this warning. It is all connected to an assignment that is closer than you think. You are not simply avoiding loss. You are standing on the edge of acceleration. There is a shift approaching your life that will require spiritual maturity at a higher level than before. It will require sharper discernment, stronger discipline, and deeper surrender. The cycle that almost repeated would have disqualified you from stepping into that shift fully prepared. Heaven does not elevate casually. Promotion in the spiritual realm comes with increased responsibility. And responsibility demands readiness. Archangel Michael has been positioned not only as your defender, but as a witness to your preparation. He has observed your growth quietly. He has seen the prayers you prayed in private. He has seen the battles you fought internally. He has seen the moments when you chose obedience over impulse. But he has also seen the areas that still needed strengthening. The enemy understood that your preparation phase was almost complete. So instead of attacking your future directly, he attempted to weaken your present stability. If your stability cracked, your readiness would have delayed. If readiness delayed, the assignment would have postponed. And that assignment is not small. There is influence attached to your obedience. There are people who will find clarity because you stayed aligned. There are decisions in your future that will impact more than just your personal comfort. The next season of your life carries weight. That is why distraction intensified recently. Distraction is always louder right before elevation. Think back over the last few days. Notice how your focus was tested repeatedly. Notice how small irritations tried to provoke emotional reactions. Notice how minor inconveniences felt bigger than usual. These were not random annoyances. They were stress tests. Would you react or would you remain grounded? Would you speak impulsively or would you pause? Would you retreat or would you press forward? Each response determined how ready you are for what is coming. Archangel Michael reinforced your perimeter because heaven intends for you to step into this next season fully covered, not partially distracted. But reinforcement does not mean passivity. You must lean into preparation deliberately. Strengthen your spiritual routines now. Do not wait until the shift arrives. Sharpen your prayer life. Protect your thought life. Refuse to entertain voices that dilute your focus. When elevation arrives, it will not wait for you to get organized. There is also a relational shift approaching. Someone will enter your life, where someone already present will reveal a deeper role in your journey. Without discernment, you might misjudge their position. With clarity restored, you will recognize alignment immediately. This is why losing God's hand would have cost you more than you imagined. It would have blurred recognition at a critical moment. But you are being restored before that moment arrives. Archangel Michael stands ready because movement is near. You may feel restlessness building inside you. You may sense anticipation without knowing why. That is the signal of transition forming. Do not sabotage this transition with impatience. Do not overthink what simply requires obedience. The shift will unfold naturally as you remain aligned. And hear this clearly. Your consistency matters now more than ever. This is not the time to drift back into distraction. This is not the time to treat spiritual discipline casually. What you build in private over the next few days will determine how confidently you walk into what is ahead. If this message is confirming what you have been sensing internally, engage with it openly. Let your agreement be visible. Like this video as a declaration that you choose readiness. Share it with someone who may also be approaching elevation without realizing the preparation required. Comment your alignment boldly. Subscribe and stand with this community that refuses to drift when destiny calls. When you amplify this message, you help strengthen a network of believers who choose discipline over distraction. And remember this as you continue listening. What is about to be revealed next will connect the assignment to a specific test that is still ahead. It may appear simple on the surface, but it carries deep consequence. Hold your focus carefully, because what comes next will require your full attention and your sharpened discernment. The acceleration is closer than you think. Anointed listener, the specific test that stands ahead of you will not look like a test at all. That is what makes it dangerous. It will appear ordinary. It will feel manageable. It may even look like a reward. But hidden inside it is a question that heaven is waiting for you to answer through your response. The question is simple. Will you protect what God restored? Everything you have heard so far has been about restoration of alignment, authority, stability, and discernment. But restoration must be guarded. If you return to old reactions after receiving correction, the cycle strengthens instead of breaks. This upcoming test will touch your emotions first. It will challenge your patience. It will tempt you to react quickly instead of respond wisely. The situation may involve misunderstanding. It may involve feeling overlooked. It may involve being presented with an option that feeds your pride instead of your purpose. Archangel Michael is already aware of the moment approaching. He is not alarmed. He is observant. He knows that your growth has matured. But growth must be demonstrated. In the past, similar situations may have triggered you. You may have defended yourself too quickly. You may have spoken words that felt justified but lacked restraint. You may have made decisions based on how you felt in that hour rather than what you knew in your spirit. This time must be different. Heaven is not testing you to make you fail. Heaven is allowing a scenario to surface so you can prove that you have learned what previous cycles tried to teach you. The enemy hopes you will treat the moment casually. He hopes you will say this is not serious. He hopes you will underestimate the spiritual weight of your reaction. Because sometimes destiny shifts not through dramatic rebellion, but through careless response. The test will measure restraint. Can you pause before replying? Can you choose silence when your ego demands explanation? Can you seek prayer before making a quick commitment? These questions will not come with labels. They will come disguised as normal daily interactions. Archangel Michael's role in this moment will not be to block the test. It will be to strengthen you through it. Angels guard, but they also observe obedience in action. When you pass through this moment with maturity, reinforcement multiplies. There is something powerful about controlled strength. Everyone can react. Not everyone can respond with discipline. You are being shaped for leadership in ways you may not fully see yet. Leadership requires composure under pressure. It requires clarity when emotions attempt to distort perception. It requires humility when pride seeks validation. This test is a doorway. On the other side of it is increased trust from heaven. If you handle it correctly, something will unlock quietly. A door will open that previously remained closed. A conversation will shift in your favor. A burden will lift without explanation. These are not random rewards. They are confirmations of readiness. But if handled carelessly, momentum slows again. That is why this message continues with urgency. Not because you are failing, but because you are close. You may already sense the scenario forming. You may feel tension building in a certain area of your life. That is the early signal. Do not ignore it. Prepare yourself internally. Decide in advance that you will respond differently. Pray for calmness before the situation arises. Ask for wisdom before the conversation begins. Anchor your identity in purpose rather than validation. Archangel Michael stands as reinforcement for those who walk in disciplined obedience. When you choose restraint over reaction, you align yourself with greater authority. Remember this clearly. Maturity is not proven in comfort. It is revealed in tension. The enemy miscalculated something about you. He assumed that because you were tired recently, you would respond emotionally when pressured again. But he did not account for growth. Growth changes outcomes. This time, you will not repeat the old script. This time, you will recognize the moment for what it is. This time, you will protect what was restored. And when you do, something significant will shift in your spiritual standing. Heaven is watching not with suspicion, but with expectation. You are closer than ever to stepping fully into the next dimension of your calling. The test is not to threaten you. It is to confirm you. Prepare your spirit now. Strengthen your focus. Guard your words carefully. And when the moment arrives, choose alignment over impulse. What follows after this test will surprise you in ways you did not anticipate. Stay ready, because the next revelation will expose the hidden reward attached to your obedience. Beloved vessel, the hidden reward attached to your obedience is far greater than the test itself. Most people focus on the pressure of the moment, but very few understand the promotion concealed behind restraint. What you are about to step into is not simply relief from struggle. It is access. Access to clarity. Access to influence. Access to divine acceleration that cannot be manufactured by human effort. The test that is approaching you is small in appearance but massive in consequence. If you respond with maturity, something will shift in the spiritual atmosphere around your name. There are blessings that have been waiting for confirmation of your stability. There are opportunities that have been delayed, not as punishment, but as protection until your foundation could sustain them. Archangel Michael has been guarding more than you realized. He has not only been shielding you from danger, he has been preserving future doors from opening prematurely. There are rooms you were not ready to enter before. There are responsibilities that would have overwhelmed you 6 months ago. There are conversations that would have intimidated you in a previous season. But growth has taken place quietly. Heaven measures readiness differently than you do. You often measure readiness by comfort. Heaven measures readiness by character, and character is proven under tension. When you pass this test, you will notice something subtle but powerful. Your confidence will feel anchored rather than emotional. Your peace will feel stable rather than temporary. Your decisions will carry weight without internal conflict. That is the sign of access. There is also a financial and practical dimension tied to this shift. When spiritual alignment strengthens, practical favor follows. Ideas become clear. Timing becomes precise. What once felt forced begins to flow. But this flow depends on what you choose in that critical moment. The enemy hopes you will treat obedience as optional. He hopes you will think, this is too small to matter. Yet heaven sees small decisions as gateways. You are not being tested because you are weak. You are being tested because you are trusted. Archangel Michael stands as witness to this trust. He has seen your private tears. He has seen your silent endurance. He has seen your effort to grow beyond former limitations. Heaven is not ignoring your faithfulness. It is preparing to respond to it. There is a door that will open shortly after this test. It may not appear dramatic at first. It may come as a simple opportunity, a new responsibility, a fresh idea, or a reconnection that shifts direction. But you will recognize the difference. There will be peace attached to it. There will be clarity attached to it. And most importantly, there will be no confusion. Confusion fades when alignment stabilizes. The warning at the beginning of this message was never about fear. It was about preservation. God was screaming because losing his hand would have meant missing this access point. It would have meant stepping into a lesser version of what was prepared. But you responded. And because you responded, reinforcement has intensified. This next season will require courage, but it will not require panic. It will require responsibility, but it will not require chaos. The storm that almost formed has been weakened because you chose awareness over indifference. Now seal this moment intentionally. Type "I walk in maturity" in the comments if you receive this confirmation. Blessing code 8484 is being released over those who choose disciplined obedience today. And as this access opens before you, understand something deeper. When you sow into a message that protects destinies, you participate in the harvest of souls who almost walked away from alignment. The Lord declares, as you release seed into my work, I will release increase into your field. This is not a transaction. It is a covenant response. When you send a super thanks, stand as a member, or give through the PayPal link in the description, you are pouring oil into a lamp that refuses to let others walk in darkness. I see open heavens over those who act quickly. I see multiplication over those who move in faith. Do not delay your obedience. Activate your support now and let heaven record your partnership in this divine mission. The next revelation will uncover how this access connects to a long-standing prayer you almost gave up on. Stay attentive, because what is about to unfold will confirm that nothing you endured was wasted. Faithful seeker, the long-standing prayer you almost gave up on is directly connected to the access that is opening before you now. For months, maybe even years, you have carried a request in your heart that felt delayed beyond reason. You asked. You waited. You trusted. And somewhere along the way, disappointment tried to convince you this silence meant denial. But silence was never denial. Silence was preparation. The prayer you thought was unanswered was actually being protected from premature fulfillment. There were details still forming. There were lessons still unfolding inside you. There were weaknesses still being strengthened so that when the answer arrived, you would not mishandle it. Archangel Michael has been guarding this specific request more intensely than you realize. There were unseen obstacles that tried to intercept it. There were timings that did not align properly. There were influences that needed to move out of position before the door could safely open. And recently, because your alignment almost weakened, the timeline almost shifted again. Not permanently, but enough to delay manifestation further. This is why the warning was urgent. Losing God's hand would not have erased the promise, but it would have postponed the experience of it. And the enemy was counting on your fatigue to accept delay as destiny. Think carefully about that prayer. It may relate to restoration. It may relate to purpose. It may relate to financial stability, relational healing, or a calling that has been stirring inside you quietly. Whatever it is, you have wrestled with hope more than once. There were moments you said, maybe this is not for me. There were nights when you stopped mentioning it in prayer because it hurt too much to keep asking. That emotional withdrawal almost created spiritual distance. But heaven saw your internal struggle. Archangel Michael did not interpret your weariness as rebellion. He recognized it as human exhaustion. And instead of allowing the distance to widen, reinforcement was sent. Now the shift you are sensing is not random optimism. It is movement. Something has been repositioned. A delay that felt permanent is becoming temporary. A silence that felt heavy is becoming active. But listen carefully. The answer to this prayer will not arrive in the form you expected years ago. It will come refined. It will come shaped by the growth you have undergone. And because you almost lost alignment, the final version of the blessing will carry greater clarity. There is also someone connected to this prayer whose heart hath been shifting quietly. Conversations you are unaware of have been taking place. Circumstances have been rearranging behind the scenes. Timing hath been recalibrating. You were closer than you thought. The enemy wanted you to disengage right before breakthrough, because disengagement weakens expectation, and weak expectation reduces recognition when answers appear. But you did not disengage fully, and because you did not fully step away, acceleration remains possible. Archangel Michael is not only defending you, he is escorting this promise toward its appointed moment. There are spiritual forces that attempted to complicate the path, yet reinforcement has increased. You may notice small confirmations soon, subtle signs, a step in clarity, a shift in someone's tone, a new opportunity related to what you prayed about. Do not dismiss these as coincidence. They are signals. This is the season where endurance transitions into evidence. But your role remains important. Continue speaking life over the promise. Do not shrink back into doubt. Do not treat hope as fragile. Guard your expectation with discipline. The test you are about to pass will finalize readiness. And once readiness is confirmed, release follows. You were never abandoned. You were being refined. The prayer was never ignored. It was being secured, and the warning you received was not to frighten you. It was to ensure that when the answer arrives, you are positioned to sustain it without losing alignment again. Prepare yourself internally. What you asked for is closer than it has ever been. The next revelation will expose how your response in the coming days will either accelerate or slightly delay the manifestation. Stay attentive, because your awareness now carries unusual weight. Awakened soul, the acceleration or delay of what you have been praying for now rests heavily on how you respond in the coming days. This is not about earning God's favor. It is about cooperating with divine timing. There is a difference between striving and aligning. Striving exhausts you. Alignment positions you. Right now, you are in a narrow window of decision. The atmosphere around your life is sensitive. Small choices will carry amplified consequence. The way you handle conversations, the way you manage your emotions, the way you steward your time, all of it is under quiet observation in the spiritual realm. Archangel Michael is not observing with suspicion. He is standing ready to reinforce momentum the moment you demonstrate consistency. Angels move powerfully where obedience stabilizes. When your words match your prayers and your actions match your declaration, the acceleration becomes natural. In the next few days, you may feel tested in subtle ways. Someone may question your patience. An unexpected inconvenience may challenge your calmness. A delay may try to provoke frustration. These are not random irritations. They are measuring points. If you react impulsively, momentum slows slightly. If you respond with maturity, momentum increases. This is the season where self-control becomes your greatest ally. There is also a temptation that may present itself in disguise. It will appear as a quick solution to something you have been waiting on. It will seem harmless. It will promise relief. But deep inside, your spirit will feel a slight caution. Pay attention to that caution. Archangel Michael reinforces clarity, but he does not override your free will. If you ignore that inner signal, you step into unnecessary complication. But if you honor it, you step into confirmation. The difference between delay and acceleration is often a single disciplined decision. You have matured more than you realize. Situations that would have shaken you last year no longer hold the same power. Conversations that once intimidated you now feel manageable. Growth has taken place. Now is not the time to sabotage that growth with carelessness. Guard your tone. Guard your schedule. Guard your thought life. When negative assumptions attempt to form, reject them quickly. When impatience whispers, remind yourself that timing is already aligning in your favor. Archangel Michael stands positioned to escort your breakthrough, but escorting requires movement. You cannot stand still emotionally while expecting progress spiritually. If this message is speaking directly to your current season, do not remain passive. Engage with it. Like this message is a sign that you choose acceleration over delay. Share it with someone who may be standing in the same narrow window of decision. Comment your agreement boldly so that your declaration reinforces your discipline. Subscribe and stay connected to this channel, because timing matters, and messages like this arrive precisely when alignment is most critical. And before you move on, remember this. What I am about to reveal next will uncover the final piece that determines how quickly manifestation appears. You will want to remain attentive, because the next insight connects everything. There is a divine synchronization forming around you. Events are aligning quietly. Pieces are shifting into place. What once felt scattered is beginning to organize. But synchronization requires steadiness. You are not waiting anymore. You are preparing. Preparation is active waiting. Acceleration does not mean chaos. It means coordinated movement. And coordinated movement requires calm confidence. The enemy misjudged your resilience. He assumed fatigue would dominate you. He assumed delay would discourage you permanently. But he did not account for reinforcement. Now reinforcement surrounds you. The next step will not be dramatic. It will be simple. It may involve restraint in a conversation. It may involve declining an invitation. It may involve choosing prayer over impulse. Do not underestimate simple obedience. Your breakthrough is not hanging by a thread. It is hanging on your consistency. Stay steady. Stay disciplined. Stay aligned. Because what is about to be revealed next will confirm that the hand of God never truly left you. It was waiting for your grip to tighten again. Steady warrior, the truth you must grasp now is this. The hand of God never truly left you. It paused, not to abandon you, but to see whether you would tighten your grip again. And you did. That is why you are still standing in alignment instead of drifting into confusion. There is a sacred difference between distance and discipline. Distance happens when you turn away. Discipline happens when God allows a moment of awareness to correct your direction. What felt like distance was actually discipline wrapped in mercy. Archangel Michael never stepped away from his post. He adjusted his stance. He watched your response. He measured your willingness to realign. Heaven was not questioning your worth. Heaven was confirming your readiness. Now that your grip has tightened again, something irreversible has shifted in your favor. The fear that you were about to lose God's hand was a wake-up alarm, not a prophecy of loss. You were warned before separation could root itself. You were interrupted before distraction could define you. You were corrected before delay could settle into permanence. That is mercy at its highest form. There is a confidence returning to you now. Not loud confidence, not prideful confidence, but anchored confidence. The kind that does not need validation from people because it is rooted in divine assurance. In the coming days, you will notice that situations that once intimidated you no longer carry the same emotional charge. Conversations that once felt heavy will feel lighter. Decisions that once felt confusing will feel clear. This is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Your alignment has stabilized again. But hear this carefully. Stability must be maintained intentionally. Just because the crisis was avoided does not mean vigilance can relax. The enemy does not disappear because you resisted once. He recalculates. He waits for fatigue. He watches for complacency. That is why this final stretch of preparation matters. Guard your mornings. The way you begin your day sets spiritual tone. Guard your speech. Words create direction. Guard your associations. Influence shapes perception. Archangel Michael reinforces discipline, but he partners with intention. When you deliberately choose focus, reinforcement multiplies. There is also something unfolding behind the scenes that you are not yet aware of. A conversation is taking place. A decision is being considered. A door is aligning quietly. What once felt delayed is now in motion. You will not have to force it. You will not have to chase it. It will come with confirmation. The fear that you might lose God's hand has transformed into a deeper understanding. You must hold firmly to what has always been extended toward you. God's hand was never withdrawn in rejection. It was momentarily still, waiting for your active surrender. And now surrender hath been renewed. The shift you feel is not emotional high. It is structural. Something in your foundation has strengthened. Your spiritual footing feels firmer. Your reactions feel calmer. Your discernment feels sharper. This is growth confirmed. Archangel Michael stands not only as your defender, but as witness to your maturity. You passed the unseen test before it fully manifested. You responded before the cycle repeated. You tightened your grip before distance became separation. That matters more than you realize. The final revelation will seal this message completely. It will confirm what is now secured and what is about to manifest as a result of your response. Stay attentive. The closing words will not introduce something new. They will affirm what has already shifted permanently in your favor. Faithful child of God, this is the sealing moment. Everything that was warned, everything that was corrected, everything that was almost lost has now been secured through your response. The hand of God did not slip away from you. It was re-gripped. It was reaffirmed. It was reinforced through your awareness and obedience. What began as a scream has ended as a covenant. You were seconds away from drifting into delay. You were inches away from repeating a cycle. You were moments away from accepting distraction as normal. But heaven interrupted you before the pattern could solidify. Archangel Michael stood in position the entire time. Not to condemn you, not to frighten you, but to guard the covenant attached to your name. There is a reason the warning was loud. There is a reason the urgency felt intense. There is a reason you could not ignore this message. Because you are marked for purpose. Losing God's hand would not have meant losing salvation. It would have meant losing sensitivity. And sensitivity is what keeps you aligned when life becomes noisy. Sensitivity is what sharpens discernment when choices become complicated. Sensitivity is what allows you to feel conviction before consequence. That sensitivity has now been restored. The test that approached you will still come, but it will not overpower you. The opportunity that was forming will still appear, but now you will see it clearly. The prayer that felt delayed will still manifest, but now you will sustain it without misalignment. You are no longer standing at the edge of loss. You are standing at the threshold of stewardship. Stewardship means protecting what you prayed for. Stewardship means maintaining what was restored. Stewardship means choosing daily alignment instead of emotional reaction. Archangel Michael's presence around you is not decreasing. It is intensifying in cooperation with your obedience. Protection is strongest where surrender is consistent. Do not forget what you felt when the warning first pierced your heart. Do not return casually to distraction. Do not treat alignment as temporary motivation. Build habits around this awareness. Anchor your mornings in prayer. Guard your evenings with reflection. Speak carefully. Decide slowly. Woo faithfully. You feared losing God's hand. Now you understand something deeper. God was never trying to leave you. He was teaching you to hold on with intention. In the coming weeks, you will notice confirmation. Small victories. Clear direction. I expected peace in situations that once felt unstable. These are not random improvements. They are evidence that alignment has been reestablished. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not abandoned. You were warned because you are valued. And now the warning has turned into blessing. Seal this moment boldly. Type "I hold on to God's hand" in the comments if you receive this word fully. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over those who choose covenant over compromise. And now hear this as a divine continuation of everything you have just received. The Lord says, "As you strengthen my work, I will strengthen your foundation. As you pour into my mission, I will pour into your house." This is not about supporting a channel. This is about keeping the trumpet sounding so other souls do not drift before they are warned. When you release a super thanks, step into membership, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are planting seed into fertile ground that rescues destinies at the edge of loss. I see open heavens responding to prophetic obedience. I see oil flowing back into the lives of those who refuse to watch silently. Do not delay this act of partnership. Activate your support now and let your seed speak before the throne. This message is sealed.